Good evening. I'd like to call the Germantown School District Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting on December 2nd, 2024, open at 4:45 p.m. Roll call. Loth.
Here.
Medved.
Here.
Cutts.
Here.
Pollack is here. Item number 3, agenda revisions and approval. Like to take a motion?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Loth with the motion, Medved with the second on the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, the approval of minutes of the October 7th, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Medved with the motion, Loth with the second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the October 7th, 2024 meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, reports and updates. Letter A, long-range facility plan update. Mr. Lord.
Thank you. Yes, so following the approval at the October board meeting, the district administration hosted a kickoff meeting with JP Cullen and PRA. The purpose of this meeting was to overview the project scope, define roles and responsibilities, discuss overall timeline, and review key deliverables. The district administration has since shared any requested district information and expectations, and completed all necessary action items to move forward with next steps in this process. That basically is anybody that we work for or work with as far as mechanical engineers, plumbers, electrical contractors, etc., for any back history that they might need, or working with them to get local numbers moving forward. So just a long short on that. But a few of the noteworthy action items that pertain to that meeting and moving forward here is that district staff supplied JP Cullen with, I did label it in here, I apologize for the repeat, building operating hours, current roofing schedules, and preferred mechanical, electrical, and plumbing contractors and or partners. We overviewed the site walkthrough logistics, schedule coordination, and on-site expectations. Let's see, I can't seem to find myself here. Discuss the limitations, site variants, and schedules with exterior drone imaging. This is to evaluate the building envelopes, rooftops, and overall facade. District staff will meet with designated JP Cullen staff as of this morning, which we did. That was 6 of them, just essentially, again, to meet and greet, put faces to names, share contacts of our building leads, maintenance, mine, and all of their teams. So that will be working directly on this project. Went very well, and they ended up going straight to Rockfield, Amy Bell, and MacArthur today. And as of about 30 or 45 minutes ago-ish, it sounded like all of them were going to be complete today. They were just finishing up on some image scanning of MacArthur. So, a project status meeting is tentatively scheduled for the 3rd week in December to review progress and continue planning the next steps within this process.
And I'll add to that, I had a conversation this morning with Nick Kent from PRA, and he and I, with the PRA team, are scheduling meetings in the month of December to meet with building principals to discuss space maximization in their buildings, walk and look at that. They've already requested a lot of data from Brittany related to student enrollment trends the last 5 years, and they're looking at obviously our blueprints and schematics of each building to see what our maximized educational spaces are. But we'll have meetings in person. Myself, I'll probably invite Jake and Katie to come along since they oversee the programming in those buildings, to sit with our principals. They're going to provide an upfront list of questions so our principals can prepare, and then we might go to certain spaces in the building to see what the limitations are for educational space, or is this space usable beyond what maybe we are internally using it for. So that'll happen over the month of December. Our goal is to finish before the winter break, but scheduling's always interesting. They'd be during the school day as well, so they can see flow of traffic of kids going out to recess, hallways, all of those type of things. So I'll have that information hopefully in January to add to an updated report. I talked to JP Cullen, Vice President Shannon Metaxen, on Friday, and he and the team, I think, want to coordinate with Frank and I to come to a January meeting, Buildings and Grounds meeting, to give, okay, we spent a month in your buildings, a status update of what's going on, and what's coming next, so that they have that full report. I believe March was the
Yes.
deadline
Yep.
for that.
Yep.
So they may come again in February, just to kind of preview aspects of it before literally a 500-page report is put there. And some of our discussions we've talked about then, and once the spring months come, breaking that report by site and holding site tours as that is the guide with a Cullen and PRA representative there to kind of navigate and talk through, that the immediate needs versus the long-term needs.
Excellent. It's exciting to hear that things have kicked off. Any questions, discussion from the committee?
I would say that Frank and I, the original meeting Frank Brittany and I had with PRA and JP Cullen was, as he outlined here, was extremely positive with the two groups working together, with JP Cullen taking the lead and all of us determining what our roles and responsibilities, how we're going to communicate and how we're going to collaborate. So, and it showed evidence today with, I pulled in and there's 4 JP Cullen trucks outside. Shirts on, and they took Frank, and I didn't see him again till the afternoon. So,
Good. Yeah. The only question I had was the expectations for attendance at future meetings, but that's been answered. So I appreciate that. Last call, and any questions or discussion?
Communication so far has
Yep.
been up to par for what we were expecting or thought we were going to have.
yeah, and we determined in our initial meeting when we set the expectations of the 3 groups coming together of who the key communicators will be via email, phone calls, so that it doesn't start to spider web out and the people that need to know and need to inform you don't know the information. And I think all of our communications have held true to that.
Good.
And quick turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, if they're scanning buildings already, it seems like they move fast.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
impressive group.
Yeah.
All right. Next item is 5B, KMS HVAC install update. Mr. Lord.
Yes, so the Kennedy Middle School air conditioning AC project, previously selected as the district's focus for the ESSER 3 mitigation HVAC goal, HVAC goal, has been underway since mid-July. As of last week, the project, that would be 2 weeks ago. Time flies. The project is nearing completion. The coils have been installed into the air handling unit AHU 10. All additional ductwork has been fitted. The new chiller piping is plumbed. All digital controls and programming from the new systems are preset. And the 40-ton rooftop unit, RTU, has been craned onto the roof in its permanent location. Project items that are currently in progress include the reinstallation of 2 sprinkler heads connecting the new RTU electrical. All necessary wiring and power is brought to the unit. It is just not connected as of right now, or at least as of today. I did not get the update, but I do not believe they did it today. And the installation of the insulation on the chiller piping and air handler ductwork. Once these are complete, the contractor will energize and perform the commissioning process of the new rooftop unit. The commissioning process is a startup procedure which thoroughly verifies the building systems are installed and operating according to the criteria in the original design and engineering documentation. That's all for our benefit, to make sure nobody walks off without everything working exactly how we expected and they expected. As you can see, I attached a couple of the fun pictures. These are usually good ones. Helicopters are a little more interesting, but this was still pretty cool to see. The pictures don't do the full scale, but it's a pretty big setup, and it did go flawlessly, so I figured that was kind of a cool one to show. All the other ones are pretty, the coils, there's nothing very exciting about coils or plumbing, so to say. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from the committee?
Can they check the AC out in this weather?
No, so the commissioning process will technically not be fully stamped and complete unless we do get some sort of awkwardly long, hot winter. It will be kind of on a hold until spring.
Spring.
Yeah. To do the full fire up, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mr. Medved.
Yep.
We have another item today, the server upgrade. Is there any delay because of that going into this?
There is not, nope. That is strictly for the high school.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Ebert?
Any hiccups along the way with this project, or did we learn anything, or discover
Yeah.
anything that wasn't initially thought to be of consideration?
Definitely. So we did run into a rather large one. As much as it's large, it was more or less just hard because there was a lot of folds and finding out exactly where we were. So the location that we had chose is actually the bullseye of 4 different sections of different years between renovations and additions. 3 technically, but there's 4 involved in it. So our structural engineering process took, to get this stamped okay through the state, took quite a bit longer than what it typically would in this case. A 40-ton unit on a structured roof, typically a turnaround would be, maybe 2 weeks. This actually turned into a month and a half to 2 months to really, now we were still progressing through the time, but it was very interesting on how it all panned out. I ended up switching structural engineers just due to a timing I felt like lack of, I think they gave up a little bit early, so to say. But did find a very good one, and he was up in the ceilings, and he was able to look up some really cool tag numbers off the rafters that they no longer make, but they're from the 1900s. So we could do all of his calculations off that. So
that was just for structural load?
Yep,
Or
yep.
okay.
But there was no Boeing ceiling tiles or anything like that, so I believe everything was done properly and confident in it. So, but that was really the only big setback. Everything else was kind of foreseen for the most part. The unit was waiting a little bit longer than what we wanted to, mainly because of the structural part, but Butters Bedding actually ate the cost to keep that at the crane yard, so
Oh.
that was very nice of them.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll move on to, there was no action on either one of the items so far. Item 5C, work order report, Mr. Lord.
Yes, so this is our, will be a monthly work order report. It's been a little bit of a skip and a jump between summer and up to now with early fall. But this is the August 1st all the way through November 26th as far as our status report of the work order system. A general overview that I have here is we have 468 completed work orders between August and November 26th. 67% of the work orders were completed in less than a week, which is very good as far as the stats that I'd seen. We're definitely in that top percentile of completion in 1 week per our size with public school districts within the Midwest. We have 24 work orders that were completed after 60 days. I had highlighted these in the attachment just to I know to go over them, and we kind of had this discussion. I think that was probably just before summer-ish, if I recall correctly. So I wanted to kind of speak to those. And I also listed the priority ratio, which we had 1 emergency listed, 5 high, 454 medium, and 8 low, which I somewhat touched base on that on our last work order status report. This is something we've been working on, as far as the priority ratio and how significant it impacts when we turn around that work order and whether they even use that tab when they submit a work request or not. So as of right now, it just shows like everybody's fairly casual on when they get their work orders completed. But medium is a very common. It's the what I want to say, the automatic or prompted is a medium. You almost have to select something different to get outside of medium. So the attached is the work order report. I just added a few colors just to make it a little bit easier between the priorities and I think I did highlight the completion or the days age where it did exceed the 60 days. And I did not have it on here, but we do have right now 107 work in progress work orders. We'll go down to just to kind of highlight some of these real quick. Whoa. Sorry. As you can see with some of these that are a lot of them that are at the 60 days or older, many of these turned into summer projects or summer work orders. You know, you can almost see many of them even came in at that end of the school year, which would give us time to get supplies and do things with the buildings vacant and kind of help us prioritize. So some of those, there is a way that I can turn that and alter it on I can put it on a default or a delay of work requests, and then it won't affect the numbers, but I keep them on there just because then these specific staff members that are assigned these, it prompts them continuously. If I delay it, then it comes off of their prompt. So I keep it on there and just kind of use I don't want to call it skewed data, but it might hurt you in the fact that it's not an immediate turnaround. And I do know a couple of them where actually they were completed and just never closed out that I did check up on. I believe that was one from the high school, and one of them was I think a year. Oh yeah, that Roto-Rooter at Amy Bell. That was we did have Roto-Rooter in that day after, and it was just never closed out. And then he ended up parting ways. So.
So one of the questions, or one of the things that I was looking forward to seeing, is the different categories, whether it's emergency, high, medium, because I think it's sometimes human nature to go high when it really is a medium. I'm actually surprised we don't have more highs on here, to be honest with you, because in my opinion there might have been a couple that maybe should have been. When it comes to, of course I can't find it as I'm trying to find it, but I think there was something wrong with the urinal somewhere that was out there for a while. But I also noticed too that some of the items that are red for us were submitted in kind of that May, early June timeframe. So I had kind of made the assumption that maybe those were because, you know what, people are going to be out of the building, if we can hold off or plan for the summer. Of course, there's always some things I think you mentioned where you're waiting for a part, you're waiting for scheduling, something like that, which makes perfect sense. But what, in your opinion, do you think sometimes people maybe should be submitting high, or are you or whoever reviewing it and going, you know what, this is a status that we need to change? How often maybe does that happen?
Yeah, so we share between myself and two others, actually have the ability to assign the work order or work request once it comes in. I get prompted with the approval regardless, so I can see it, but it just helps the dailies between some of the deliveries and things of that nature. I will say, I feel there's definitely more than a handful in here that previous experience should be marked as a higher priority. But without it being on here, a lot of these as well, they'll submit it with a medium, and then I'll get prompted with an email shortly after or the day after, because it's an immediacy that I don't know. All I see is that you need this by tomorrow, right? But I don't know what is tomorrow, if they have something going on or. So there are definitely scenarios and some, if there's a leak, and it's a consistent leak, or not quite a flood but a leak, that would definitely raise a higher priority for me to say we need to address that before the end of the day. And I think we're still kind of working on that. I have thought about it on how I can communicate that with staff, because the other side of it, which I would much rather not prefer, is that everything is labeled as a high priority or an emergency, because then I physically have to go and change all of those and decipher the reds versus.
I think there's probably a level of happiness, I'll put it, with mediums coming through, but either with follow-up or a review going, you know what, it's a leak, or more substantial than just a regular leak.
Definitely.
We're going to place higher on it, or a follow-up with whoever submitted it. So.
Yeah, and I think I've kind of touched base on it. in the past is, you know, some of those emergencies, those come in first as phone calls, more often than not, or maybe an email, but almost always a phone call, and then they get submitted after.
Right.
And that might just be a casual, just to get it on the books, and it might not be marked as an emergency. So, those do get addressed without, I'm sure there's at least a couple dozen on here that, you know, we're, hit it right now, and then we'll have to come back and enter a work order, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any other questions, comments from?
I think the photos of the crane are real nice. I think as far as if the dollar number is high enough that it gets my attention on the finance committee, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing photos of that stuff.
Sure.
Also,
Okay.
not just the text and the list here.
Okay.
You know, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a lot of things that are over 5 and under 15, you know, that we don't approve, but
Sure.
it's still, it's like, oh, look at that. Didn't hear about that in the Building and Grounds Committee
Sure.
meeting,
Sure.
whatever that was.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Doesn't have to have a lot of text with a photo, just a little bit.
Sure, just to kind of give it a header. That should not be a problem at all.
Any other questions, comments?
I just,
Yep.
if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So I'm trying to find it now. Of course I can't because it's a long list. I thought I put a note on it, but I didn't. There was a couple in here where it was, whoever was making the request was saying they identified themselves in it, but then it was, I'm using this account because that doesn't work on mine. I found that a little,
Do we call it Ken?
it could be. I saw a couple of them. One specifically like identified in there that exact statement of, I'm using this person's account to make this request because it
Oh,
doesn't.
sure.
But then I'm seeing
Yeah,
others.
the treadmill.
Was that the
That's what-
treadmill?
yeah, that's
Treadmill ones.
It is, 6.
Yep,
4.
that was it.
Yeah, 147.
That's up to
Oh,
the top.
That was-
I can speak to that. I believe there, oh,
I mean, I appreciate
we
that
had-
they're identifying
yeah, we had-
themselves that way. I think it's helpful, but
yeah, when was the date of that one? That was at the end of the year?
Yeah, June.
yeah, 6/24, I
We had
think.
an employee that left the district, and I think they were still trying to get it fixed, and they used that employee's because it's related to that room and that account.
Okay. Yeah, maybe
All-
that was.
Doesn't everyone have maintenance direct in?
Yes, yeah, if you have a
Zenworks, so-
Gmail or Google account, yeah, you
Yeah.
have this, the fancy single sign-on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if maybe that's just a touch
That's
base,
an
because there's
ID.
more than just that one,
Sure.
where I can see some sort of note of them identifying it as not the account holder, but using it because they don't have one or something along those lines. Just a reminder on training or whatever.
Yeah, we have
It'll be
had a
easier
few
for
that
them
they don't
too,
go on to
right?
ZenWorks, all you have to do is click on it and they don't know that that's there,
Yeah.
so.
'Cause
Some
I
of
don't-
them do email and we will prompt them about it.
Yeah. I'm assuming we don't see all the information, we're just seeing the notes section of the request
Yep,
and what you're giving us.
yep.
As long as you guys can figure it out, I suppose, but that was kind of the only thing that stood out to me. A couple of them longer, but I wasn't thinking about it when I looked at it. Now the longer ones I'm seeing, they were at the end of the year, which makes sense that we had summer to handle it, so thanks for pointing that out. I'm good, thank you.
Anything else? All right, we'll move on. There is no unfinished business. That's item 6. Moving on to item 7, new business. GHS Metasys server upgrade.
Yes, so the Germantown High School utilizes Metasys software as its building automation system. Metasys controls the programming for various HVAC and lighting needs within the building. This includes anything from scheduling run times of equipment, creating space temperature set points, and monitoring the usage of utilities. The current Metasys system is operating on a 2016 Windows server that is nearing the end of its life cycle, and lacking the ability for proper system updating, which leaves it vulnerable to various types of cyber attacks and system failures in general. The Germantown School District IT Department has deemed upgrading the current 2016 Windows Server to the 2022 Windows Server as a priority, but it requires a Metasys software upgrade and migration to run on the new operating system. The Metasys building automation system can only be upgraded by and through Johnson Controls. as it is a proprietary system delivered only through Johnson Controls. The B&G department does plan to work closely to ensure a successful upgrade and minimal disruption on 2 daily operations. This would be funded through the capital fund, Fund 41. I do want to say, just with some of recent history and happenings, this was prompted a little bit sooner. I have had this in the works. It will be on the capital improvement, the 5-year. My intent, I haven't noted, was in June when I had put it on there, that it was brought to my attention, but it booted up a little bit earlier after discussing with IT and again with recent history. So that was kind of the turning point for the immediacy.
Okay, thank you. Question, so obviously we'll work to ensure the successful upgrade, minimal disruption. What does it look like if there is a disruption? Like what's that kind of worst case scenario if something breaks?
Worst cases, it would be a default. I've had it happen before. A default, which essentially the program freezes when we're trying to do the excuse my non so fancy terms. But while we're doing the upgrade, it freezes and essentially the entire system defaults into either lights on, or in this case, if it was a heating time or during the heating season, the heat would stay on, and it would stay on 24/7 until we had it figured out, and then the brain comes back in and tells it what to do. So, catastrophic, not at all, and in fact, just because it is a separate server, it really doesn't affect anything outside of the building automation system. You know, as far as the network that we utilize every day for school. So.
Just open the windows if the heat stays.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I know plenty of kids who are still wearing shorts to the high school,
Oh, yeah.
so it really wouldn't impact them. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, so this 2022 Windows server is already there, used for other things, and we're gonna add on?
So my understanding is that our system, this server would be brought to the 2022, but I believe we have the 2022
In other aspects.
on the other aspects of the IT realm.
I think we have 19 total servers to
Okay.
operate multiple. This one's just lagging and upgrade.
And this is, any building automation system is highly prone to cyber attacks or anything of that nature as well. It's not
Yeah.
uncommon, unfortunately.
So there's a new server coming in?
Yes, that would be for the 2022.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. It was just kinda hard to tell the way it was worded.
Sure. Yeah, it was confusing even for myself to go back and forth between servers. There's a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, but regardless, it's something that one relies on the other. And if anything were to happen now with our programming, after talking with Johnson Controls, I mean, of course, but it's not uncommon where pretty much any support for repair or reprogramming of that is no longer. So we do not currently have an issue with it, but the next one will be it. So trying to beat that.
Okay.
And do you know, do they update the windows on a regular basis? Like in 2 years or 4 years, there would be having to be another upgrade?
From what my understanding is, it is the 4 years is what they run through the Windows Server upgrade, is what their current pattern has been. And Nick is not here, but I did discuss it with him, and he gave me kind of the date outline on how that did work. As far as the building automation system goes, that is typically, there's updates before the next upgrade, but then at some point, there are no more updates, and that's when they typically tell you need a new server. So that ranges depending on the system. Metasys seems to be a pretty common, 10 to 15 year type of program, I should say.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? If there's no questions, I'd look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to move forward with a positive recommendation to the Finance Committee to approve the GHS Metasys server upgrade through Johnson Controls for the amount not to exceed $16,000 funded out of the Capital Improvements Budget Fund 41.
Second.
We have a motion by Cuts, second by Medved to move this motion to the Finance Committee for the Metasys server upgrade. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will look for one final motion this evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Whoa, guys, let's.
Second.
Loth with the motion, Medved with the second. Any discussion on adjourning? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Buildings and Grounds Committee ends at 5:15 PM.